Okay, so start. Hello everyone, I am Nirav and it is the seventh article of our series on comparative literature and translation studies. And today I and my colleague Himanshi Parmar both are going to present the topic that is on translating a Tamil poem. And this is the essay or an excerpt from the collected essays of A.K. Ramanujan. So let us go to the first slide. Yes, so it is the abstract that what basic outline of this essay is that it deals with the difficulties while translating one original text into the another language. So when you translate, so it is not only about talking about the conscious or spirit of the text, but when how you face the grammatical difficulties or phonetical semantics. So many things are there. On that, he throws some light, and so. In the first part, he discusses this: how does one translate a poem from another time, another culture, another language. So while translating a text, we have to consider the culture, time, and place. So these three things are there. And the subject of this paper is not the fascinating external history of this literature, but a translation. And the chief difficulty of translation is its impossibility. So now here, A.K. Ramanujan quotes Robert Frost that Frost once even identified poetry as that which is lost in translation. So what poetry is that according to Frost is that it is lost in translation. So how it is lost in translation? Because when you translate something, so facing many difficulties regarding on this grammatical, phonetical, and many things, you face it seems like you kill the spirit of the poem or whatever was presented by the poet in the original language, while you translate it in the foreign language, then the problem will occur. So it is there, and this is its impossibility. So no translation will give you the exact meaning of what the poet wants to tell in the original poem. It is the thing also there. So there will be some variation on grounds of so many grammatical things and another things also. So here is the example I have taken from the essay. So here is a poem from an early Tamil anthology, because we are talking about the Tamil poem and the English translation of it. Ainukurum, so it is the part of the 8 anthologies in Tamil Sangam literature. Modern Tamil script, it is the Tamil script, and let us see in English what happens. So let us look at the grammar briefly. If we separate and display the meaningful units of the above poem, we see the following. So now, by doing word for word translation, what do we get? And it is that Annai or Amma Vali. So it is the thing, and if we translate these things word for word in English language, is it everything? Okay. Then we find this that mother may you leave desire. But now when we have to do this meaningful translation, so what meaning it generates in English language, then we do this that what she said. But here the problem lies in Tamil language, the word annai or amma, they would pronounce in spoken Tamil that amma. It is written as annai, but it is pronounced as amma. So it means we can address to any woman by this amma. So it is not only by mother. We can address to the mother by calling this amma, that we have mother, mom, mummy in many languages. So in that way, and Annai is also used to address any woman in this Tamil context. So here the problem is, so what she said. So here mother thing is not specified there. And this how shall we divide up and translate poem? First we have to divide while translating. And what are the units of translation? So here he focuses on the units of translation, on what milestones you have to translate any poem, or any poem. Here the poem is being talked about. We may begin with the sounds. So the first unit of translation, the units of translation, here he puts the thing is the we may begin with the sounds. So sounds are quite related to the phonetics of the thing. So how the sound is produced from the human throat, and many things are there. So many apparatus is there. So we find at once that the sound system of Tamil is very different from English. So the very first problem on the grounds of sound is that the sound system of Tamil is very different from English. So on which ground it is different? So let us see. For example, Old Tamil has 6 nasal consonants. So it is M, but here is N. For example, Old Tamil has 6 nasal consonants, a labial that is, and a dental. So dental we know that this labial we know, and alveolar and a retroflex and palatal and a velar. So here are the 6 varieties of Tamil consonants, and 3 of which are not distinctive in English. So 3 are only similar in English. So by and large we get this idea of in English language there are 3 types of consonants, varieties of consonants, but in Tamil there are 6. So when Tamil is being like very vast poem, and having this much varieties in it, when you set to translate it into English, then you will face the difficulty on grounds of this. So how? So there are what three are common here is that this M and N. So here we see M and N. So it is pronounced in different way in Tamil and in English as well, and it is that Tamil has no initial consonant cluster, but English abounds in them. So here another difference is also there in pertinence with sound. Let's see consonant cluster. So there are like school. We have this clubbed word, like not clubbed, but we can say these two sounds are coming at the same time, like school, whale, and many things are there. So scratch, place. So it is the difference on the grounds of sound. And here is another thing, that when we add up these myriad systematic differences, we cannot escape the fact that phonologies are systems unto themselves. So now phonologies, as we were talking about, that the phonological or this phonetics are also the part of this translation process. Grammatical, syntactic, lexical, and here see what phonology includes into it basically is grammar. So sentence structure is there, grammar, what to use where, and syntactic, the how the structure of sentence is put. In Tamil it will be different, so it will also be discussed, and in English it will be different, like I am going, so it will become am I going in Tamil, so it is there. And but lexical, what kind of words that yesterday we were talking about over synonymy, putting the near meaning or near meaningful word, but well, when you do it, when the whole meaning will change. So it is the lexical, choosing the diction or language or words, and semantics, what meaning will be generated out of doing all these things. So the meaning is also important as equally the grammar structure of this. And yes, we can map one system onto another but never reproduce it. So it is the effect that we can map one system onto another system. Here system is the phonology, here system of the grammar, onto another but never reproduce it. We cannot reproduce the original system or the structure that is provided in the one language which is being translated. Here he gives the example of this. If we try and even partially succeed in mimicking the sounds, we may lose everything else. So just by mimicking the sound, what sound is being produced, we will just transliterate. It is just transliteration in French. Then the meaning will lose. Syntax, the meanings, the poem itself, as in this delightful example of French phonological translation of an English nursery rhyme. So it is very quite familiar rhyme that we have in our childhood, like Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Now see, it is Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Now in French, if we translate it on the basis of sound only, we are talking about sound, the first unit of translation, that un petit dun petit sat on the ox hellis. See how it changes the meaning just because relying on the sounds. It is the French example there. And yes, sometimes it is said that we should translate metrical system. Now, here he gives an example, like many of the audience will ask that why don't you translate the meter, as if it is very easy and possible. So he quotes this, and a meter is a second order organization. So after sound, what comes while translating a poetry? Then there comes meter. Meter, we have chand or any kind of thing. So meter is a second order organization of the sound system of a language and partakes of all the above problems and some more. Uh, Yes, this Tamil meter depends on the presence of long vowels and double consonants and on closed and open syllable defined by such vowels. There is nothing comparable in English to this way of counting feet and combinations. So in English, again, the problem of this meter is also rising like this. In Tamil, there is something different, and in English, it is different. So no note meter will be as coherent with English language of the Tamil. And English has a long tradition of end rhymes, but Tamil has a long tradition of second syllable consonant rhymes. So while rhyming the words, it changes also like this. English has a long tradition of end rhymes, so it will end at the rhyme. So we are having this uh, many poems like they will end at the rhyme, but here it is Tamil has a long tradition of second syllable consonant rhyme. So they will put the rhyme in the second syllable of the word. On that ground, it also differs from the original poem. End rhymes in Tamil are a modern innovation, just as second syllable rhymes in English would be considered quite experimental. So in English, the experiments are also done, like second syllable rhymes in English as like Tamil. And the tradition of one poetry would be the innovation of the another. Now, it is the very significant line. The tradition of one poetry, the tradition of one poetry, that let us take for example here, the Tamil's tradition of poetry would be the innovation of the another. So suppose somebody is experimenting with the English language while translating the Tamil poem, then they will do some innovation into it. So that is why the line is stated by the poet or the author. The tradition of one poetry would be the innovation of the another. Then innovation will happen on the basis of one system of the poetry into the other. The Tamil has no copula verb or for equational sentences in the present tense as in English. Tom is a teacher. No degrees of comparison is adjectives as in English. Sweet, sweeter, sweetest. No articles like and so on. So many things on the grammatical basis are also there. The constraints of French require you to choose a gender for every noun, but English does not. Now, coming again to the French language, there we have this la or le. So, for girl, for the female, we will use the la. Like in John Keats' poetry, there is la belle, dame sans mercy. So, la belle. So here he is talking about the girl. So, la. And le, we have this le algaro, el pensero. So, from the medieval English literature. So, it is the, for male and female, there are variations of addressing them, but in Tamil or English, there is not. We will just say this. Tom is a teacher. No, now we don't know the gender. Only as far as we know, okay, the Tom is the a boyish name, then we can get to know about this. Otherwise, the foreign listener would know will not be able to identify which gender he is being talking about. The lies and ambiguities of one language are not those of another. Here it also important. And here he quotes the further one critic is the Evans Pritchard, the anthropologist. He again is an anthropologist and used to say in reference because anthropology and it has some connection with this. And if you translate all the European arguments for atheism into Azande, so Azande is a kind of tribe, and they would come out as arguments for God in Azande. Such observations certainly disabuse us of the commonly held notion of literal translation. We know now that no translation can be literal. No translation can be literal. So literal translation we saw in transliterating the text, that no translation will be literal. So it will not come out to you as it is in the original language, but there will be some changes. There will be some changes in translating the text or word for word. This word for word translation we saw, that is where the impossibility lies. So what impossibility lies is that we cannot have the original text, original meaningful text. So we have to learn the first that language if we want to have this original meaning there. And a translation is a free one. So when we attend to syntax it means the grammatical structure of sentence. So how the sentence should be written. This is a mango. A mango is this is something weird, but it is the perfect structure. Like this is the mango. So it is the syntax, the grammatical structure of sentence. We see that Tamil syntax is mostly left branching. Left branching. English syntax is by and large rightward. Rightward. We English we write like this rightward, and in left we do this even a date like the 19th of June. So it is an example that how the syntax changes in Tamil and in English as well. So even a date like the 19th of June 1980, when translated into Tamil, would look like 1988 June 19th. So how see the structure changes, the syntax changes. It is the also problem. And here is the another example that he gave, that the men who came from Michigan, it is the English proper syntax. The men who came from Michigan, what happens in the Tamil would be Michigan from come past tense who men. So here the past tense is taken Michigan from who men come who men. It is a thing. And if poetry is made out of among other things the best words in the best order, so we have this notion in while writing or analyzing any poetry, that the best words should be in the best order to generate the proper meaning or what the feelings are there in the poet. And the best orders of the two languages are the mirror images of each other. What is a translator to do? Okay, he gives a he asks a rhetorical question that the most obvious parts of language cited frequently for their utter untranslatability are the lexicon and the semantics of word. So lexical, what words should be used while translating the original poem into the selected language. So lexical problem is there, and here is the semantic problem, that what meaning will be generated. So the meaning we have shown in this slide. So but now this should also be regarded the for lexicons are culture specific. Suppose we are having one word, it will have different meaning in this culture and it will have another meaning in this culture. So there are many innumerable examples. That is why it is said that for lexicons or the words or are culture specific, so it will have its own cultural meaning out of that. And Tamil classical poetry would call the poem an interior or a calm poem. So Tamil classical poetry would call the poem an interior or a calm poem, a poem about love and its different phases. Contrasted to it are exterior or puram poems, which are usually public poems. So there are two basic types of while talking about Tamil poetry. That first is about love or about like privacy and all the things like we have romanticism, and then so this type of poetry they will call it as akam or interior poetry. So this should be kept within the home, behind the door like thing. And another thing, the puram poems or exterior poem, that what is happening outside of home in context of this point, that it is exterior or puram poems, which are usually public poems about war, society, the poverty of poets, the death of heroes, and so on. An example would be this Purana Nuru poem by Pomutiyar. And this the classical Tamil poetic tradition uses an entire taxonomy. So entire taxonomy is being used by in and classification of reality is part of its stock in trade. The five landscapes. See here, it also very good to see that the five landscapes of the Tamil area. So there are five landscapes basically upon which the poetry is being penned in the Tamil Sangam literature, characterized by hills. So first is hills, seashores, agricultural areas, wastelands, and pastoral fields, each with its forms of life, both natural and cultural. So, where there will also be life, it is not about talking about only human lives, human things, but they will suddenly talk about the love between sparrow and the male sparrow and female sparrow. So, many things are there. So, on these five grounds, they will focus upon, and the life and culture they will derive out of it. They will pen a poetry in Tamil literature, and love and war become metaphors for one another, enmesh one another in poems like a young warrior. So what her mother said. Now see, we saw that the what she said, because in context of girlfriend we saw. But now what annai or amma word, in context of girlfriend we saw. But now if we want to translate in the English, then the poet does this. That what her mother said. Now the whole context will change just by changing the word from girlfriend or just her, just putting a word mother to for the amma. Then the whole context, all the meaning, all the semantic of the poetry will change. So if it is the example of the poem. Yes, so this seared throw the ball away to the ground. So it is the example of the poem. Now, there's a language within a language. See, here it is very interesting to see. There's a language within a language. So there is a language. There is one meaning. Within that meaning, there is another meaning. So that is the language within a language becomes the second language of Tamil poetry. Now it is the second language. We cannot say only specific this meaning will be derived, but no, there is something else also. If you apply it with different approach, then there will be something else too. Like ordinary language, this art language. So they call it the poet, the A.K. Ramanujan calls it this art language. So Tamil is an art language because it has so many facets into it. Two makes possible in Wilhelm Humboldt's phrase, an infinite use of finite means. An infinite use of finite means. So we have been given specific meters, specific grammar structure, but it will have its infinite use. So we can mingle up many things and we can create something out of new. So that is why we have these things, that how, what is told is a bit lesser important than how it is told. So how is this infinite use? So how we told, how we tell this, and the things is there. When one translates, one is translating not only Tamil. One is not translating only Tamil. It's phonology. Okay, any phonology. Okay, its phonology means its word and grammar and semantics. But this entire intertextual web, so entire intertextual web. So Tamil has phonology, grammar, many things, lexical words and semantics, many things are. Yet use its second language of landscapes, which holds together natural forms with cultural ones in a code, a grammar, a rhetoric, and a poetic. So it gives like a holistic idea of Tamil poetry. That in Tamil poetry you will find everything, the nature, culture, and all the grammar included into it. So it is the thing. And yes, for further information about the slide, I would like to call my colleague Himanshi. Please, thank you so much.
So the second part is about closer look at original of Kapilar's poem, that is Ein Kuru Nuru 203, and in English it is What She Said. So this is the poem. In this poem, if you find the first word, that is Annai, and that word in spoken Tamil, it is called as Amma. So literary meaning of that word is mother, is a familiar term to address for any woman. In this poem, it is taken as a girlfriend, and Ramanujan translated it as a friend to make clear that the poem is not addressed to a mother as some other poems are, but a girlfriend. Now, if we see, there are two translations are given. First translation is a piece by piece translation, and the another one is a translation that preserve the theme and content of the this poem. So, in if we see that if we translate this poem piece by piece, then the word order is his land, then leaf holes and animals having drunk and etc. But when But here Ramanujan is in the phrase order in English, try to preserve the order and syntax of theme, not a single word. So if he try to preserve theme, then the order is his lands, water, and then it is leaf covered water holes and muddies by animal. This how it is going. But still, the word inia that is here in the original poem at the middle of the poem, we find it is not coming there. Yet he says that the presence of 19 nestled in the Tamil poem foreground the N in the central word inia that is here quite untranslatably. Since it is such an important word for poem's theme, I put it at the head of the sentence in my translation, preferring the inversion to the weaker placing of sweeter than in the middle of the poem. So this word inia here, it is taken, it is put in the front row. So the inia means sweeter. So when the Ramanujan translated the poem, inia word he put at the beginning of the line to preserve the theme and main context of the poem. The pres Then the poem, this poem is a Kurinsi piece. Now, Kurinsi is the characteristic of love poetry in Tamil Sangam literature. Here you can click and read more about this and about the lovers' first union set in the landscape and the poem speaker. So the poem speaks of innocent young woman's discovery of sex in the hills with her man. And now we find that there is two poems given in the article. One is on the page number 225, that is a leaf in love and war. And then after that poem written, the poem another poem was written. What she said, that is on one page number 221. That is sequel of that poem we find in that poem, in the poem a leaf in the love and war, it is discovered that how the woman the lovers union is discovered, and in the poem what she said is about a woman who just returned from her lover and now discovering his her experience to her friend. So this how it is written. Now this is the poem, and in now this is the another translation of the poem what she said, or we can say Ain Kurunuru. Here Ramanujan translated the poem with different mood and the purposes of poem. And if we see that the poem's mood here is in the previous translation, we find that mood of that poem was great wonder, and purpose was to speak of life's goodness. But here we find the mood is sadness and the purpose is pursued the lover to marry in different mood and in different purposes. The Ramanujan translated 10 different translation of the same poem in Kurunuru. The poem is often addressed to a one person but meant for someone else within earshot, as in joint family. So now these 10 poems that he translated of Ain Kurunuru anthology are part of hundred of themes of Kurinsi literature, or we can say lovers union, by a single great poet, Kapilars. And if we see that all poems of landscape share the same set of images and themes but use them to make truly individual design and meanings. Now further Ramanujan said that translator has to translate each poem in a way that suggests that interest, dialogues and networks. So further in the part three is divided into four parts, subtitles. If attempting a translation means attempting such an impossible, intricate task, freedom to failure. what make it possible at all? That is the question here. And at least four things he gave answer, that at least the four thing or maybe even four articles of faith help the translator. And these are the four articles. First of them is the universal. In that we find that if there were no universal in which language participate and of which all particular languages were selection and combination, no language learning, no translation, no comparative studies can be possible. So if the universals are not there, uh, we would have to invent them. Universal of structure in both signifiers, for example sound, grammar, semantic, rhetoric and poetics, and the signifieds like what poem are about and what they mean with the across culture are necessary to fiction in, that is telling in the part. And the second part is interiorized context. So in that we find that the poem like the one Ramanujan has been discussing interiorize the entire culture. We know about the culture of ancient Tamil only through the central study of these poems, like poem the translation of Ein Purunuru. Now we find that the diagram and chart that has been used to explicate the classic Tamil poetry are based on earlier grammar of Tamil, Tolkappiyam, the oldest part of which are perhaps as old as 3rd century, and such grammars draw on the poems themselves and codify the dramatized personas and alphabets of theme, set of situations that define where, who, may, say what to whom, a list of favored figure of thought and figures of speech, and many things, and so on. When one translate a classic Tamil poem, one is translating also this kind of intertextual web, the meaning, making web of colophons and the commentaries that surround the contextual the poem. This what is the basic concept of second part. And now the third part is systematicity. So in this part we find that one translate when one translate not a single poem, but one when translate something, it is not translate just single poems, but body of poetry that create a contain their original world. Even if one chooses not to translate all the poems, one chooses poems that culture together, that illuminate one another, so that illusion, contrast, and collective design are suggested. And here we find that intertextuality is not the problem but the solution. One learn one's lesson here not only from the Tamil arrangements but from Yeats, Black, and Baudrillard's, who all used arrangement as a poetic device. So here we find example of English writers. And then the fourth is structural mimicry, the work of translating single poem in that particularity is the chef work of translation. When one attempts a structural mimicry to translate relations, not items, not single word but phrases, sequence, sentences, not mimicral units but rhythms, not morphology but semantic syntactic patterns. And now at the conclusion, Ramanujan said that to translate is to metaphor to carry across, and translation are transpositions and enactment and interpretation. Some elements of original poet cannot be transformed at all, but for that the translator must choose another theme and another kind of context that match with it. And texture are harder to translate than structures. Liners, linear order more difficult than syntax, line more difficult than large pattern. And at last, he said that the translation must not represent, but represent the original. So here, in the both the represent, there is difference of meaning, and it is quite different. And at last, he said that translator is an artist of oath. Thank you.